My name is Sophie, and I am 32 years old. I stood in the small dressing room of an old stone chapel, staring at myself in a mirror that had probably seen 100 brides before me. And I felt nothing but a hollow, aching dread where joy was supposed to be. My wedding dress fit perfectly. My hair was pinned exactly the way I had practiced for weeks. And my bouquet of white roses trembled slightly in my hands, because I could hear my father's voice through the thin wall, loud enough that half the guests probably heard it too. He works in a warehouse, my father was saying to my uncle, not even bothering to lower his voice. A warehouse. My daughter marrying a nobody who drives a forklift for a living. I closed my eyes and breathed through it, the way I had been breathing through it for the past 8 months. Ever since I brought Marcus home for the first time, my family had never given him a fair chance. My mother had asked him, in front of everyone at Thanksgiving, whether he had any actual plans for his future. As if raising 2 younger siblings alone, after his parents died in a car accident when he was 19, was not a plan, was not a life, was not proof of exactly the kind of man he was. My father had refused to shake his hand the first time they met, and had never warmed since. Marcus's calloused hands, his modest apartment, his steady, unglamorous job, made him invisible to them, made him nothing, made him someone they thought was not worth their respect. But I loved him. I loved the way he remembered exactly how I took my coffee. The way he drove 4 hours through a snowstorm just to bring me soup when I was sick. The way he never once asked me to choose between him and my family, even when they made it painfully clear they would rather he did not exist. So when my father knocked on the dressing room door and stepped inside without waiting for an answer, I already knew what was coming. Your grandfather isn't here, he said flatly. He had a golf thing. And frankly, Sophie, I'm not walking you down that aisle either. I'm not going to stand in front of 200 people and pretend I'm proud of this. I stared at him, waiting for him to laugh, waiting for him to tell me it was some kind of joke, but his face stayed cold and certain. Dad, please, I whispered. It's my wedding day. Walk yourself, he said. That's what happens when you marry a nobody. He said it so casually, like he was commenting on the weather. Then he turned and walked back out toward the chapel. A moment later, through the cracked door, I watched him settle into a pew in the very back row beside my mother. Arms crossed, chin lifted, positioning himself like a spectator at some show he intended to enjoy. The wedding coordinator appeared at my elbow, her face uncertain. She asked if I wanted to postpone, if I wanted someone else to step in. I looked past her, toward the closed chapel doors, toward the muffled sound of 200 guests waiting, toward Marcus, somewhere on the other side, already standing at the altar, probably wondering what was taking so long, and something inside me hardened. I would not let my father's cruelty steal this day from me. I would not give him the satisfaction of watching me crumble. No, I said, straightening my spine. I'll walk myself. The doors opened, the music swelled, and every head turned toward me. I gripped my bouquet and started down the aisle, alone. My heels echoed against the old wooden floor. My eyes fixed straight ahead on Marcus, who stood frozen at the altar, his jaw tight, clearly having just realized what my father had done. I could feel the whispers rippling through the pews behind me, could feel eyes crawling over my empty side, searching for the father who should have been there, and finding only empty space where he should have stood. I was halfway down the aisle, my breath shaking, my knees nearly giving out from the weight of 200 stairs, when I heard the heavy chapel's doors behind me creak open again. I froze, thinking, perhaps my father had changed his mind, that some flicker of shame had finally reached him. But when I turned, what I saw made my heart stop entirely. 30 strangers, in matching charcoal gray suits, walked in and lined both sides of the aisle, moving with a quiet, deliberate precision that silenced the entire chapel. Their faces were solemn, unified. They positioned themselves, shoulder to shoulder, along both rows of pews, like a wall of silent witnesses. Gasps rippled through the guests. My mother half rose from her seat. My father's smug expression cracked into confusion. One of them, a tall man with silver hair, and the bearing of someone used to being obeyed, stopped directly beside the back row. He turned, looked straight at my father, and said one single word. "Sir! Sir!" the silver-haired man repeated. His voice was calm, but it carried an authority that made the entire chapel lean in to listen. With respect, you don't get to sit there and enjoy this. Not after what you just did to your daughter. My father's mouth opened and closed. No sound coming out. My mother's hand flew to her chest. I stood frozen in the middle of the aisle, my bouquet trembling, utterly unable to understand what was happening. The silver-haired man turned toward me and offered a small, respectful nod. "Mrs. Sophie, forgive us for the dramatic entrance. My name is Victor Hale. I'm the Regional Director of Operations for Ridgeline Logistics." The name meant nothing to me at first, until I saw Marcus's face at the altar, pale with shock, his eyes glistening as recognition dawned. Ridgeline Logistics was the company Marcus worked for. Victor Hale was Marcus's boss's boss, a man Marcus had mentioned only a handful of times, always with quiet respect. 6 years ago, Victor continued, his voice steady enough to reach every corner of the silent chapel. Marcus Bennett walked into our warehouse as a 19-year-old kid who had just lost both his parents and was raising 2 younger siblings on his own. He took every shift he could get. He never complained. He trained new hires without being asked. He caught safety violations that saved us from lawsuits. And he quietly mentored a dozen young men who had nowhere else to turn. 2 years ago, when our Denver facility was about to shut down and put 400 people out of work, Marcus was the one who redesigned our entire intake process and saved that location. He is, without exaggeration, one of the most extraordinary employees I have had in 30 years of business. I felt tears sliding down my cheeks. Not from sadness now, but from something fuller, something like pride, cracking open in my chest. Victor gestured to the 30 people standing along the aisle. Every single person standing here today works under Marcus in some capacity, or worked alongside him and asked to be here. The moment they heard what his own family thought of him. We didn't come to make a scene. We came because a man who has quietly held up so many people deserved to have someone hold him up today. Especially when the people who were supposed to didn't show up. He looked directly at my father again. "A forklift operator, sir, is what you called him. I'd call him the backbone of a company with 4,000 employees. And frankly, I'd trust him with far more than I trust most men in suits. The chapel erupted into a hush of whispers, and a few scattered claps that quickly grew louder. I watched my father's face drain of all its arrogance, replaced by something small and ashamed. Something he clearly had not expected to feel. In front of 200 witnesses, my mother stared down at her hands, unable to meet anyone's eyes. I turned back toward the aisle, toward Marcus, who was openly crying now, his shoulders shaking, as he watched the people he had quietly helped for years stand up for him in the one moment he needed it most. Victor stepped back respectfully and gestured toward me. "Please, continue. We just wanted him to know he wasn't walking into this family alone." I gripped my bouquet and walked the rest of the aisle between two rows of strangers who felt, in that moment, more like family than the people I had grown up with. When I reached Marcus, he took my hands and whispered that he loved me, his voice breaking, and I whispered back that I had never been prouder to become his wife. The ceremony continued, but it felt different now. Charged with something electric, something the whole room had witnessed and would never forget. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the marriage, the silence was so complete. You could hear the candles flickering. I glanced at my father, who kept his eyes down and said absolutely nothing at all. We exchanged our vows, and when Marcus slid the ring onto my finger, the entire chapel rose to its feet in applause. The 30 strangers in gray, clapping the loudest of all. At the reception, my father approached me once, stiffly, and mumbled something that was almost an apology. Something about not realizing, about being wrong. I told him I appreciated the words, but that actions mattered more, and that he had a long way to go before I would trust that he meant them. Later that night, dancing under string lights with Marcus's arms around me, I realized my father had spent years trying to convince me that Marcus was worth nothing, when in truth, Marcus was worth more than my father would ever understand. Value was never about job titles or salaries. It was about showing up, about quietly building people up instead of tearing them down, about being the kind of person 30 strangers would drop everything to defend. My family mocked my husband as a nobody and let me walk down that aisle alone. But in the end, it was my husband's love that made me understand what true worth actually looks like. Title: My father refused to walk me down the aisle. Then 30 strangers walked in. If this story touched you, hit like, subscribe for more real-life, emotional wedding stories, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Sophie's place?